Most of you know me, CEO of Medigis. We're recording this. We're going to put this up on our website for other folks who are not able to attend. And what we wanted to do this morning here at DDW is just take an hour and just kind of go through where we are with the company. Invited a couple of physicians to join us as well. Dr. Roth Keyswitch is here, a key opinion leader from Germany, one of our highest users of the Muse, Ali Lankarani from Jacksonville, Stavros Stavropoulos will each have a chance to talk about the product and procedure. And in the meanwhile, I just want to take a few moments and just cover where we are and a quick update in terms of the company. As you all know, we're a publicly traded company in Israel, traded on the TASE. Talk a little bit about Medigis, go into the physicians, talking a little bit about the product procedure, where it fits, how it fits, what we're doing, and really what the program and platform is moving forward. Have a quick Q&A. And then we'll cover a Muse demo. And I want to start here. Many of you have heard about the transition of Medigis from the TASE over to the NASDAQ. And just last week, actually, we received our approval letter for Medigis. It'll be listing on the NASDAQ. And I thought I'd start the program with this because this is very big news for the company. We'll be trading on the NASDAQ actually this week. So that will happen later this week. It is official. We don't know the exact date yet. But that's a very big step forward for the company. So really the question is why Medigis? And the Muse is really the first platform of this product and of this company, and that's for GERD therapy. Very compelling technology that's really driven by the world's smallest camera with flexible endosurgical tools. Again, we call this a flexible stapling platform. A very large market opportunity, high gross margin. And the big news for us is related to the economic side, the reimbursement. And this is a very important step for the company as well. Just this past March, we received a Cpt Category 1 recommendation. This is in process now, and as of January 1st of 16, we expect to have the reimbursement within the Cpt process for esophagogastric fundoplasty transorifice procedure. So this will be a standalone procedure that will cover the endoscopic approach for our procedure. In addition, one of the strongest platforms of the organization is the intellectual property. We have over 70 issued patents, many of them on the camera, as well as on the flexible stapling platform as well. So again, I see this as a platform not just for reflux surgery, but moving into other areas in the future also. So just a quick slide on the opportunity. Many of you know this. 24 million patients in the US suffer from GERD. And we know that over a number of years, the disease just gets worse. As it progresses, really the current surgical threshold is a Nissen fundoplication, and a Nissen fundoplication works. It's nobody's gold standard. We call it the current standard. And what we're looking to do is really fill that therapy gap with what we would consider a new surgical threshold. In many ways similar to what's happened in interventional cardiology. So if you think about the Muse procedure, similar and almost parallels what the coronary stent market looked like 25 years ago. So we're looking at the therapy gap that falls somewhere in the middle between about 100,000 procedures with lap Nissen, and there's probably close to 15, 16 million procedures, at least in the US, that would fall into this therapy gap. Some of them may be good candidates for Muse, some of them might be good candidates for lap Nissen, but the whole opportunity here is really providing these patients with something different, with more of a less invasive approach to a laparoscopic procedure. And just a quick point on scopes, and I know many of the our physicians here will talk about this, but scopes, an endoscope, a gastroscope, a colonoscope, a standalone scope has always been a very critical tool in natural orifice surgery. And initially, this is really what attracted me to this space and this company. The first device here, you've got a scope that's going through the middle of a surgical device. And what happens in many of these cases, it takes two physicians, one to hold the scope and one to hold the device. A little bit more complex, it adds cost and complexity to the procedure. Or you've got a product or a procedure that's actually going piggyback or over the side of a standard endoscope. Again, it's complex. You're making products that fit through the existing working channels and attach onto the working channels themselves. And then you've got devices that fit on the distal tip of this gastroscope or colonoscope, and you have to put them on a distal tip and pass them in. And again, this is how we've done this for a number of years. Or you've got another device, one that's going piggyback. You've got something on the distal tip and then something going through that working port as well. And then my favorite is, I have no idea what this one is, But you've got an endoscope with all types of different things coming over it. This was actually a Boston Scientific product from several years back, but the point being that scopes have always been part of what we do with natural orifice surgery. So what is it that we've done? What is our platform? What is the value proposition of Medigis? The value proposition of Medigis is being able to take many of these therapeutic elements and adding the surgical capability and putting the world's smallest camera on the distal tip. So again, it's a flexible endoscope that acts as an endoluminal stapling device. In addition to that, we've also been able to put an ultrasonic transducer on the distal tip, which really helps us to identify that tissue thickness, in our case for reflex surgery. So it's a combination of taking many of these technologies and creating a disease-specific or procedure-specific device. So we're no longer dependent on the endoscope. In other words, we're deconstructing that endoscope and creating a therapeutic tool. So I just want to touch on the Cpt Code, since this is a critical area for the company and really impacts our US business model going forward. Back in 2014, we had 3 GI societies and 2 surgical societies that supported a application for the Cpt Code for this transgastric procedure, for the esophagastric fundoplasty. Now, that application code was submitted in November. We found out in February of this year that our code was accepted and recommended for a CPT Category 1. So what happens now is the remainder of this year, they do the surveys, they do the additional diligence, and they'll apply a number to that CPT code. We'll find out in October what those numbers are in the final recommendation. In November, that code will be published, and January it becomes effective. So until that time, we really don't know. A lot of rumors going around, but we feel it's going to be a very positive step forward for Medigis. So in terms of a summary, a positive recommendation from the AMA for this Category 1 code for the Muse procedure. It'll be a dedicated code for our procedure. Again, it's a unique single-use surgical platform that we feel will redefine natural orifice surgery. In addition, it's a large market opportunity, looking at the reflux surgery market and the GERD market, a high gross margin device, a differentiated procedure. We have compelling clinical data with our several peer-review articles now in print and several others on the way. Behind us, we have industry-leading healthcares, including OrbiMed and Johnson & Johnson. So we feel it's a very strong platform. We're well differentiated and feel with the CPT code moving forward, we have a tremendous opportunity. So with that, I'd like to introduce our first speaker, Dr. Roth Keyswitch. He's a head of the GI department in Wiesbaden, Germany. He's a board certified in internal. Do you want me to read through all this, Ralph? This is a long list of. He's a very important doctor, but he has been involved with Medigis since the beginning, and this is why we feel Dr. Keyswitch is a very important physician for us. He has a lot of experience with the earlier generations of the product and tremendous amount of clinical experience as well. Ralph, thank you.
Yeah, Chris, thank you. They invited me because I'm the old guy now, because I participated already in the first study using the Muse system, which had a different name. But it's very exciting to see how the company has evolved and developed. And we just recently, 2 weeks ago, and then 3 weeks ago, we had the first 2 live presentations of the Muse system. One was in Berlin in Germany, and the other was in Rome in Italy. And both procedures went well. The examination time was less than 60 minutes. One was 65, the other less than 60 minutes. And you see some impressions how the system works. There's one operator has the endoscope in his hand. It's an endostapler, so how we call it. Even it is also an endoscope because you can look through the very small camera, and then you make a turn of your endoscope and you staple at 3 sides and create a valve, or somehow you imitate a fundoplication, what is, as Chris said, the standard of care at the moment. If you look back in the years before, when we started with the system, I was working as the head of the endoscopic unit at the University of Mainz. We had the so-called SRS Generation 3 system, and you just see how different it is, because with the new development, you really can fly with numbers. And I think that's completely new for the physician, because you rely normally on your endoscopic image, but now you rely on numbers and on the technology which is inside that system. And it tells you step by step what to do, and also shows you with green bars if you on the green side, or with red bars if you should adjust the system and find the right way to make the stapling, because if you apply the stapling, this is irreversible, so the patient will have the stapling at this side, so the machine has really nice to control that you do anything right. And you see the difference. We had in our study 2 consoles, that's only 1 left. We had a very basic text interface here, and now look here at the software control, and also the system gives you clear commands. You see we evolved from CCD to CMOS, and we had a manual staple ejection, and now it just press a button and then you fire and you apply the staples. We had no alignment pin, no ultrasound or ergonomics. These are details within the system, and these are now available with the Muse Generation 6 system. This is a busy slide. I'd like to guide you over it, but it's my last slide, and I show you what we achieved so far. You see in the pilot study, we have now the first 5 years data, which is always very important, because with endoscopic devices, we worked for a long time as gastroenterologists and hope that we find a solution for reflux disease. This was not the case, but now we have a system where we really do endostapling, and it's a real surgical approach, but it's a surgical approach which is over the mouth of the patient. You see, this was our pivotal study with 69 patients with the 6 months results, and you see that 73% of patients had a reduction in their scores of heartburn. And if you compare that to laparoscopic anti-reflux surgery, you see this is about 90%. So we are somehow in between a laparoscopic fundoplication, and now we have the opportunity to treat patients with smaller hernia, and we reach about over 70% quality or symptom control in the patients. Endpoint is that you do not need any medicine, no PPI therapy, and you see there 54% patients are off PPI after 5 years, 77% have a reduction. In the first data after 6 months, it's 65% and 85%, and that's quite similar to a laparoscopic anti-reflux surgery. It's a very safe approach. It's not completely safe. There are complications, but they can be managed. In the pilot study now after 5 years, there was no dysphagia, and all patients would repeat the procedure. And you see also that with the pH-metry, which is a hard endpoint, there was a significant reduction in the pH-metry. It was not completely normalized, but it was as good that 65% of the patients were off PPI. You see that laparoscopic anti-reflux surgery is also not completely perfect. You see reoperation rates up to 10%, and moreover, you have dysphagia and also the air bloating phenomenon or the trapping of air, which can be also with discomfort. To summarize, I think we have a great new tool, which is a single operator. It can be done in the endoscopic unit or in your surgical operation theater, if you like. It's a one hand, and it's a clever new mechanism to do treatment for patients with reflux disease, and there are really many out here, and we have to tell them that there's a new opportunity between PPI treatment and laparoscopic fundoplication. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Keyswitch. Okay, next, Dr. Stavropoulos, Chief Endoscopy Director, Advanced GI, and Dr. Stavros is a specialist in advanced therapeutic endoscopy. And just a quick note, he actually has how many other presentations? 3 other presentations, I think, today.
All the same thing.
Oh, yeah, exactly. With the largest number of POEM procedures in the U.S. And Dr. Stavros is giving the state-of-the-art lecture on notes actually later this afternoon. Stavros, thank you.
Thank you, Chris. We also have our live case. We love doing that. So we just did this on March 27 at Winthrop. It's my hospital in Long Island in New York. We have a live course going for 8 years now, where we do notes and endoluminal surgical procedures only. We focus on this, we call it frontiers of endoscopy. So we did, this may be the first live case in the United States, yes. So, and I was able to obtain very expeditiously Bravo data, even though this was done on March 28, at exactly when was like 6 weeks, we got the Bravo data, which I don't know if you have here. Oh, there you do. So this was a 30-year-old woman that was on twice-a-day PPI and had terrible reflux. This is a pH study with her off medications. You can see the red line is a pH less than 4. You can see a tremendous amount of reflux. Total time that the pH is below 4 was 28%, with 4% being normal. And then we made her better than normal. So this is her Bravo afterwards, which I really blew me away from a surgical standpoint. I'm not a reflux person. I'm not a physiologist. I'm more of a surgeon. So I believe in concrete, objective measures as opposed to symptom scores and this and that. So anyway, so this was amazing, because I've been involved with other devices for reflux from the endoluminal surgeon standpoint. When I get a new device, I always get excited. Number one, because of the ability it will give me to steal more territory from the surgeons, and from the patient side, spare them the surgery. And from the second standpoint, what else can I do with this device that is really cool and unique? So anyway, so in that respect, I had worked with Stretta when it first came out, then the endioplicator briefly before it disappeared from our armamentarium in the US. My concern about these devices, and I probably did the first esophagus cases back in 7 years ago, and I abandoned it after 3 cases, actually. So my problem with these were that you get all these symptom score stuff and PPI use improvements, but then the pH studies don't show a tremendous difference. That was always not sitting very well with me. So anyway, so this was impressive. So I'm very excited that you can show the total pH time less than 4 here is 0.9%, down from 28%. So, and this is, I think, 6 weeks out. So this is very good. And so for this device, I'm really excited. Number one, in terms of having the ability to help all these people with severe GERD, and that's probably the biggest in volume indication for endoluminal surgery that we have right now. Because I do other things. For example, POEM is a oral version of a established surgical procedure, the Hellermyotomy, that now is actually the first successful natural orifice transluminal endoscopic surgery procedure. People try to take gallbladders out through the mouth. That and in the end didn't go anywhere. Appendices through the mouth or the rectum or the vagina, trying to make no scars. So it didn't work, but POEM worked. It's the first successful procedure, but there are only 3,000 to 5,000 patients. Then I removed some tumors that normally are removed laparoscopically. I just cut them out through the mouth and bring them out the mouth, making a full hole in the GI tract that then needs to be closed. Again, not a tremendous amount of patients. What comes close is I do these procedures to replicate the sleeve gastroplasty. This is a surgical procedure to lose weight. So we can use one of the devices you showed, that suturing device, to make a tunnel, a sleeve, replicate the surgical procedure. That's a bigger number of patients, but nothing like the GERD population. So it's a very, it has an important public health impact if these results turn out to be true. And then, as I said, the second objective always is, what else can you do with an endoscopic stapler? I mean, there have been attempts to make endoscopic staplers for us before, but none has succeeded so far. So this is having used it, it's such a simple, well, it's not simple, but it's simple to use device compared to, say, something like esophagus. So the question is, can you use it as a stapler? And there are publications, for example, from Germany, mainly of people that I guess had the stash of endioplicator when it disappeared, and they just published 30 cases of removing tumors by pre-stapling with the endioplicator, which is actually made for reflux procedures, pre-stapling under the tumor to close the hole you're going to make, to then make a full thickness removal of the tumor. So basically using it in a totally different indication that allows you to do natural orifice surgery. So transforming this stapler to something that can close holes, very important. I mean, we have the suturing device, it's good, but that would be the equivalent of a hand-sewn closure by a surgeon. It's very convenient to have also a stapler that can close holes in the appropriate setting. So I'm very excited for both these possibilities here. Sorry. So that's what I have to say.
Thank you, Dr. Stavropoulos. Thank you very much. And the final physician speaker is Dr. Eli Lankarani. Dr. Lankarani is in private practice at the Borland Groover Clinic. He's also active in the advanced therapeutic endoscopy. Studied here, actually, in DC, Johns Hopkins area of Baltimore, and has also been active with the Muse procedure. I believe you've done 3, correct? Dr. Lankarani, thank you.
Thank you very much, Chris. Thank you, everybody, for attending. First of all, no conflict of interest. I do not own anything from this company. I'm just giving a talk, giving you my honest opinion about the product. Why I have been asked to come here and talk is, I guess, because I've done most of the cases in this country, which is 3 right now. And you might say, why a private practice person, not a professor or not an academic person, does the most of the cases? But what you realize is that most of the procedures in this country has been done by the practitioners that are not affiliated in academic settings. We carry and we perform most of the procedures, and we are the end users. So when I was given the opportunity to be part of this, I looked at it very objectively. I said, is there a problem? Yes. There is. 100 million Americans, at least once a month, they will have heartburn, and there are large number of people that require treatment for that, taking medication. So there is a problem. Do we have solution for that? Yes. We have medications that work very well. The PPIs work very good for acid reflux, but there are people that do not respond, and there is more than heartburn to acid reflux. It can cause cancer, it can cause strictures, it causes pulmonary respiratory problems. So what is the other option available? That is surgery, and the surgery is not probably the most pleasant, and that's experience for the patient, and that's why the numbers are constantly dropping. There was another paper during this meeting that showed that even laparoscopic Nissen fundoplications number are going down constantly. So there is a need for a temporary a solution that is not as invasive. So there is a problem. What are the options that we have that are less invasive? Looking at it generally, there are 3 endoscopic treatments available. There is the radiofrequency, which is basically burning the tissue in the junction of the esophagus and the stomach and trying to augment the valve. That option, unfortunately, doesn't work long term. Data after 6 months shows that doesn't work. There is another technology that Chris showed that does the fundoplication, actually does the sewing. I do not use that, and there are a couple of reasons for that. As Stavros also mentioned, technically it's very challenging, doesn't fit well to a busy schedule of a private community gastroenterologist. It is a blind procedure, meaning you can damage organs while trying to help them for their GERD, causing perforations or damage to liver or other organs. There have been serious complications associated with all of this, but all of our procedure can have complications associated with them. The most important reason I don't use that technology is that you have to ask your patient to stay on liquid diet for 3 months. I cannot tell a patient do something that I would not do it, or I would not recommend it for my own family member. So we looked into the Muse. This is my second case. This was a very interesting case because this gentleman in 30s came to my office a while ago because of having so much heartburn and could not sleep 5 hours after eating anything. So he would have his supper around 5 o'clock, going to bed not before 11 or 12 at night. And finally, the wife said, enough is enough. You will go and talk to a doctor. So he came to me. I started this 30-year-old man on a very high-dose medication. He was taking it 2 times a day. His heartburn was improved, but the main problem remained. He cannot go to bed at the same time that his wife goes. So I didn't have anything else to offer him. I said, there is surgery. I can send you to see a surgeon. And he said, no. So, well, stay tuned. We might have something in the future. And future came. 2 weeks after, 8 days after the procedure, this patient went on to regular diet. 2 weeks after he came to me, he said, Doc, I hope you're not mad at me. I stopped all of my medication. I don't have heartburn, and I sleep and go to bed. This is rewarding. This is something that we need with a technology that is achievable for general end users like me, can do this, can offer. We have options now to offer to the patients, and that's priceless. The analogy that I use is that ERCP, removing stones from the bile duct, came 30 years ago and changed the way we practice. And this hopefully will be that solution. Now, there are technical aspects that needs to be worked, and we still don't know how to do the stapling, how many staples, what are the locations. That's why we are doing the research, and we will hopefully improve this in the future. So in a nutshell, we have a problem. Now we have a solution, and I am feeling comfortable investing my time and effort in this company because not only they have a device that is very promising, but also they carry a platform with lots of IP and patent related in their back. And also, they have a leadership that understands the problem. They are international, they're integrated, they have smart people. So I feel confident about your company, and congratulations to you.
Thank you, Dr. Lankarani. Thank you very much. So at this point, what I'd like to do, I certainly want to thank Professor Keyswitch from a European perspective. I think a very broad-based experience and many different generations of the device. Professor Stavros, for really understanding the potential for these minimally invasive natural orifice surgical approaches. And I think Dr. Lankarani as well, a community practice perspective of a very busy gastroenterologist with about 60 GIs in your practice, 80. Okay, very large practice, very busy practice, and I think that perspective is very valuable for us as well. At this point, what I'd like to do is just talk quickly about where we are today, summarize the discussion, and then ask the 3 physicians to join us here at the table. We can have a quick question and answer. Again, the commercial transition really is underway now. It's underway today. We have a very clear regulatory path, both in the US as well as in Europe, a series of 510Ks, a very clear indication coming from the FDA. What we're looking to now is really to start to scale the commercial model, but in a very repeatable way, in doing it responsibly and doing it with physicians who really understand the product, the procedure, as we continue to develop more data and really drive additional peer review articles, making sure that we're approaching this in a very disciplined way with clear patient selection criteria as well as clear training. Clinically, as well as publication, we continue to drive our peer review process. We've got additional publications that are going in now, and as well as just recently started a registry here in the United States. Finally, the big hurdle for any healthcare company, for any device company, is the economic hurdle. And from driving reimbursement, we have a terrific opportunity on the CPT side, working with the US physicians and the CMS, as well as in other markets, including in Germany and other regionally in Italy as well. So it becomes an economic activity for us and really driving not just the procedural results, but making this a procedure that physicians feel comfortable with and the patients are clinically happy with as well. So finally, what I'd like to do is just one more time impact the positive recommendation from the AMA and the CAT 1. identify the single-use platform. It's a surgical platform. Again, it's a natural orifice platform that drives surgical endoscopy, a flexible stapling mechanism. Large market opportunity with a high gross margin, a very differentiated product-specific and procedure-specific device. Compelling clinical data today and additional coming down the pike. Finally, with OrbiMed and J&J behind us, we're very happy about our support, and our investors continue to offer strong activity and strong support behind us. So with that, I'd like to ask Professor Stavros, Professor Keyswitch, Dr. Lankarani to join us here. If there are any questions, we can just get to the details. Okay, Jeff?
Dr. Keyswitch, can you talk about the reimbursement in Germany, what you've seen so far, and what if that may change? And could all three of you discuss the setting that you're performing? Is it outpatient or in the OR? Average number of times?